For more on this conflict, I want to bring in Gidi Grinstein. He's a former Israeli negotiator and the founder and president of Reut Institute, a platform for policy research on issues facing Israel and the Jewish people. He's also the author of Insights, Oslo and the Peacemaking Process 30 Years Later. Gidi, thank you so much for joining Top Story.
Thank you very much for having me.
I want to start with the U.S.'s move, right, to indict those leaders of Hamas. Will that do anything? Does it have any teeth?
I think it has a symbolic importance, but practically, Yahya Sinwar, if he makes it out of the tunnels of Gaza, he's probably going to be taken by the Israelis. So I think that ultimately, no. The answer to your question is no.
Okay, let's show some of the video from Israel we've been watching over the last few nights. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis protesting Prime Minister Netanyahu. It's been nearly a year. Some hostages have been released. Many have been killed. Many are still being held in those tunnels in Gaza. Did Netanyahu manage this situation incorrectly?
So the war obviously began with a horrible debacle on October 7, terrorist attack of October 7, where the Israeli line effectively collapsed. There's a lot of history that went into that, but that was probably the worst moment in Israeli national security in the last decades. Moving on, Netanyahu launched into a war without an exit strategy, meaning he did not define the political and diplomatic objectives of the war, which means that a lot of tactical military achievements that were gained during the war were effectively evaporated. Moving forward, he actually established unattainable goals for the war, and therefore confusing and making it almost impossible for the military to consolidate the achievements. And now we're looking at the issue of the prisoners. A lot of people in Israel believe that Israel cannot win the war if those hostages are not being brought back. This is sort of a widespread belief. And therefore, the position that Netanyahu is taking right now, which severely compromises the prospects of ever bringing back these hostages alive, is actually preventing Israel from achieving one of the declared objectives of the war, which is to return the hostages. So Netanyahu here is in a bind, and effectively, most Israelis believe that he's actually playing the political game as opposed to the strategic game.
So you were a former Israeli negotiator. What would you tell Netanyahu to get those hostages back? Is there any strategy to get them back?
Basically, Netanyahu has dealt with Hamas since 2009, and he has done deals with Hamas and understandings with Hamas, and he knows what I'm telling you now. The only way to work with Hamas is either through the Egyptians that control the border and have a leverage over Hamas, or with the Qataris that put in money, and the leadership of Hamas is in Doha.
But they have been at the table the whole time.
Yeah, they have been at the table. And therefore, if Netanyahu wants a deal, and there is a huge question mark whether he wants a deal on the hostages, to return the hostages.
You're saying he does not want the hostages back?
I'm saying it's not a top priority for him right now. Because he wants to keep his coalition stable. He has a coalition with far-right parties, and their concern is that if there is a hostage deal that leads to a ceasefire, that will unleash a chain reaction that eventually may lead to political compromises that they will not accommodate. Meaning there is an expectation that once there is the ceasefire, there will be some sort of an engagement on the day after and the political horizon of Gaza, and that would require dealing with the reunification of Gaza and the West Bank, political process, potentially even talking about the two-state solution. He doesn't want any of that.
We have less than a minute. The big issue for Netanyahu, he has said, is keeping his troops there on the Egyptian-Gaza border because he believes Hamas will get arms. Does he have a point?
The answer is yes, he has a point, but this is a 30-year issue, the Philadelphia Road. We've been in and out. Netanyahu knows that if we stay in the Philadelphia Road, we effectively maintain control over Gaza. That means that Israel will be seen as responsible in occupying Gaza, responsible for 2 million people. This has tremendous administrative, diplomatic, and military implications for Israel long-term. So Netanyahu actually knows that he cannot hold together staying in the Philadelphia Road on one hand, and he's pledged that Israel will not resume control of Gaza on the other hand. Those two statements are diametrically opposed, and that's why basically his strategy, I think, will eventually collapse.
Gidi Grinstein, we appreciate this conversation. We'd love to have you back on and talk about this more.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.